And hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Inside Movies Galore. I'm your host, David Streggy, and here in the room with me, I have director Ryan Stacy, co-founder of Concept Media. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
And I appreciate you being able to come on and talk about your career and what you do. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in the horror or the independent film community?
Well, we'll say it'll be 7 years ago, actually, 8 years in January. Sean Burkett and myself were going to write a film that we had hoped to try and sell to Joe Bob Briggs. He was online posting about how he was trying to acquire some indie horror scripts because he wanted to produce some films. And we got to writing, and then we just thought, why not just dumb this concept down a little bit and let's just make the thing ourselves.
Okay.
So that's how Midsummer Nightmares came to be. I wrote and directed it. Sean handled all of the technical concerns.
Okay.
And here we are.
Awesome. Ultimately, since you just brought up Midsummer Nightmares, why don't you tell me a little bit about the what Midsummer Nightmares is about, and how did you find some of the cast members that you acquired to make the film?
That's a fun question. So, well, Midsummer Nightmares is pretty much, every indie horror studio I find has a little love letter to the late 90s horror movie, the infamous masked slasher with a little wit.
Okay.
And so that's kind of what Midsummer Nightmares came to be. I tried not to make it too carbon copy of Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer, but there are some bits that are subtle nods to it. As far as casting goes, a lot of the cast were people that we knew, but it was actually a good mix. So half of the cast was good friends of ours that we knew could pull it off, and others were people that we found through a casting call that we held at our local library.
Okay.
We had posted a notice on Craigslist, and I think 4 of the 10 people that showed up that afternoon got parts.
Cool. And where, in fact, did you film Midsummer Nightmares? Might I ask?
Right here in, where we're from, Brookville, Ohio. It's where Concept Media is based. We use this town a lot. It pretty much looks like we live on a backlot. So we just film here. Brookville is a little farming community about 25 minutes, we'll say, northwest of Dayton, Ohio. So we're just, down in the southwest corner with Dayton and Cincinnati.
Okay, cool. Now, how was filming on the set of Midsummer Nightmares? How did that go for you?
Oh, it went really well. There's nothing like your first film. There were hiccups. There were, we'll just say run of the mill things that, hang a production up that we just simply were not prepared for because we had never done it before. But our entire cast and crew, they were amazing, and we just rolled with the punches and got through the stressful times. There was one day where I ended up having to pick up a role in the film.
Okay.
So when we were directing the party sequence, there's me trying to direct all these shots, and I'm also in full drag because my character was at the costume party in drag. So that was difficult because the shoes were terrible. I had to go pick up a pair of shoes that day, and I fell a lot. I definitely ate dirt many times in front of the casting crew.
Okay. And how was the reception of the film once you got it out to the film community?
It's so funny, David, because people still love it. It is our first film. You can tell that it is our first film. And I know that sounds kind of like I'm shading my own project, but
Yeah.
obviously, if I could go back in time and do some things differently, I would. But people still love it. They embraced it immediately. Um, we had a very large turnout at the theatrical premiere. A local news station came out and covered us.
Cool.
So it was really cool, and people just still really love that film even over the sequel, which in my opinion the sequel is definitely a stronger film. People just really gravitate to that first one. It's just an indie film with a lot of heart.
Okay. Moving on to the first anthology that you guys had actually done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Watch this. Why don't
Yes.
you tell me a little bit about your part dealing with this anthology for you guys as a company?
Well, Sean and I had sat down to plan that, and we just noticed that anthologies were really hot. So that was our main goal. Let's just do a bunch of shorts and create this little anthology. My role in that was the writing and directing of Ladies Night, which actually would later go on to win Best Short Film at the Horror Society Awards
Okay.
the following year. I had so much fun with that because we had never been able to accomplish shooting an entire film in one day.
Okay.
And we did. And Ladies Night is actually just one of my favorite things I've ever created. I love the whole idea of taking the joke, a blonde, a brunette, and a redhead walk into script place, and they just cause mayhem. So I've always been very proud of that story, and so much so that I have a script for a feature. I just haven't produced it yet.
Okay. Cool. And um, how was um, how was the anthology received to the film committee? And did you use any? Did your company use any newer actors than you had used previously in your Midsummer Nightmares?
Yes, there were several new faces that we had not really worked with prior to that. Christy Faulkner was in it. She played Camille, who was the redhead in Ladies' Night. And at that point, I had already cast Christy to take over the role of Julie. Or Julie was the actress that played Audrey. Her name was Audrey in Midsummer Nightmares. So Christy was playing Audrey in the sequel. We were getting ready to film it, and
Okay.
she picked up this part for us in the short. And the blonde in um, Ladies Night, her name is Emily Sewell. We actually went to high school together, and she came on the project last minute. We did theater together, so I knew she was a great actress, and she really came in and just slayed it. We had so much fun actually shooting that. It never got released, but we do have a completed Ladies Night 2 that never came out.
Okay.
So
So ultimately, after the anthology, you went into Midsummer Nightmares 2.
yes.
Now, why don't you tell us a little bit about the script of Midsummer Nightmares 2? I mean, don't spoil it for us, but just give us a little synopsis. And then, was there anyone else that you had added that you hadn't used previously in the anthology short or the Midsummer Nightmares?
Yes. So Midsummer 2 picks up a year after the first one, and it's basically just dealing with the ghosts of our pasts. That was the primary vehicle in the story.
Okay.
Basically, Audrey a year later is just kind of isolated herself, as all final girls do, and there's a group of people who start getting knocked off by a killer that they suspect is the killer from the first movie. And there's a couple twists and turns throughout the way. Um, that film was filled with a lot of talent I had never worked with before.
Okay.
We had Christy, was her first feature. That was the first time that I got to direct Erin Ryan. She makes an appearance in the film, and Erin is always a pleasure to work with.
Okay.
Um, and I had at the beginning, I was able to work with at the top of the film, Kitsy Duncan, who is a very well-known fixture in the indie community. She does film, and her husband run Celebrity Photo Ops, which is the company that comes into a lot of these big conventions now and
Okay.
handles your pretty looking photos with the celebrity guests.
Okay.
So that
Very.
was Midsummer too. Yeah.
And How was the film's reception?
To be honest, it was not received as well as the first one.
Okay.
And there's no shame in that.
No.
It did receive also most highly anticipated feature or highly anticipated film as
Okay.
well at the Horror Society Awards that year. But we just we just learned that people really don't want a sequel unless you can really turn it out.
Okay.
So it was a learning experience.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
still proud of it though.
Moving on to the second anthology that you guys created, which was kind of a seasonal
Yes.
anthology called
Mm-hmm.
Season's Greetings.
Yes.
What was your involvement in this anthology? And was there anyone new that you had worked with that you hadn't worked with previously?
Um, so Season's Greetings was a richer experience in terms of production for Sean and myself because we worked in tandem, weaving all of the short films that comprise this story. I was responsible for writing and directing two of them. Sean wrote and directed two of them, but we had to make sure all of the events and everything lined up. So we had a ton of people in on that I've never worked with. One of the shorts I specifically directed, which was Ladies' Night Before Christmas, saw
Okay.
the girls coming back to town. They were looking for a Christmas gift,
Okay.
which ended up being a very beloved piece of the male anatomy. And we had I had a new redhead taking over the part of Camille. All the guys I had never really truly directed. I mean, Scott Gillespie, who was in both Midsummer 1 and 2, and he was in the first Ladies' Night, returned as a different character. But everybody else was new. So it was like, okay, guys, we have this one night to knock this out. Two of the actresses were from Cleveland. So we had to shoot them, wrap them, and get them out the door to be home. It was it was very chaotic. It was way more chaotic than shooting the first one.
Okay.
So that's the only thing that I really remember about making Season's Greetings was we had 6 weeks to make it and
Okay.
get it out by
You,
Christmas.
you had a very short schedule to get
Yes.
it out on, so it was a little different because you had to get you had to cram it in.
Yes, exactly.
So ultimately, how was it received to the community at the time?
Oh, they love it. They still do. Season's Greetings, we move more copies of than Watch This. It's a really unique little Christmas movie.
Okay.
And I mean, we've started selling it again. It's that time of year. So 3
Exactly.
years running, it still moves. And that's what we love. And we still hear people, oh man, I love Season's Greetings. And Elfis, people really love Elfis when it comes to that anthology. And I have to agree, he's a cute little thing. So, yeah, people just love it. It was received very well. It got great reviews. And like I said, we're still selling it.
All righty. So ultimately, then you got into a short film called "It's Your Fault."
Yes.
Now this is actually the first time that you'd actually encountered myself. So because I actually went and bought your film at the time, but regardless, why don't you tell me a little bit about what "It's Your Fault" is about, and how you got involved with that? Did you use any newer actors that were involved in the film?
Well, It's Your Fault is really kind of interesting because it's not a horror film. It's definitely a dark comedy with some thrills in it. It's Your Fault is basically about a group of independent filmmakers who have had their first shot working with quite a bit more money than they're used to. They have some elevated actors working in it. And basically, it was just a miserable time making this movie. They're all due to ascend on this one producer's home to have a celebration did like a celebratory dinner after the premiere where it's tanked and they were literally booed out of the house. And they all of their tensions and egos just collide and they all literally end up killing each other.
So, ultimately, did you use any newer actors or actresses, or did you use some that you'd actually used previously?
It was a fair mixture.
Okay.
I used Stacy Frieders, who by that point was in Midsummer 1 and 2. She was in It's Your Fault. I really just love working with her. She's a lifelong friend of mine and one of the most talented actors I have ever met. I did get to work and direct Joe Kidd and his wife Iabu Windermere, and then another actor, Titus Wolverton, he came into the project. So I was really excited to direct these new faces. Plus, I had more older faces that I had been able to collaborate with. The one special moment I really have from It's Your Fault was that was the first time that I really got to direct Brittany Blanton.
Okay.
And it was the first time I'd seen her playing a role that wasn't the sex pot character. I mean, she was, but she had comedy and she actually had like a voice and a bit of a backplot that was revealed throughout her dialogue. So it was real fun watching Brittany take that on. But that was a very hectic weekend. We shot that over 2 nights.
Okay.
So that was fun. Yeah.
Now, before I go into talking about your newest feature, Falling Grace, you it looks like you put a segment into the 60 Seconds to Die too.
Yes, I did, and it's actually a sequel segment to one of the segments Concept Media had in the first volume of 60 Seconds to Die. It's a sequel to By Felicia.
Okay, so you guys have films in both the first and the second.
Yes, we do.
And then did you use any one previously that you had used before? I mean, I know that that you that 60 Seconds to Die 2 is not out yet, but
it is on Vudu.
Okay.
It has been released on Vudu. We saw that the other week. Sean and I giggled because we watched the trailer. It's available for purchase on Vudu.
Okay. And how is this reception so far?
It seems like people are really digging it. To answer your one question about using folks from,
Sure.
yes, I did. Shayna Stanley, who was the villainess of By Felicia, she came back as that character in Girl Bye.
Okay.
And Peyton Krebs was in that with us, and she's the star of The Lamb. She's in It's Your Fault.
Okay.
And recently she played Sue Snell in my short film about Carrie White.
Okay. So so now I'm going to talk about how was the reception of It's Your Fault, by the way?
Oh, it was very quiet. I mean, it was a limited release film. We didn't have it out for long. The folks that did purchase it and see it, they liked, what we did with it and where we were trying to go with our films. But ultimately, we are known as a house of horrors. So, they were pretty much just like, stick with what you know.
Alrighty. Well, now I'm going to talk about your Failing Grace film, which is kind of why I wanted to get you on, even though I've enjoyed talking about your previous films. How did you get involved with Failing Grace, and why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
Failing Grace is a feature that was birthed from a 9-page short I had written. Those 9 pages ended up being what inspired the climax of the film. Sean had just loved that real quick little story, and he's like, you need to turn this into a feature. And so I didn't think I could do it, and I sat down and I started writing it. Failing Grace was actually the first feature-length script I completed and produced sober. I'd had a terrible run of alcoholism for years and years and years, and I finally, put that baby to bed. and I didn't know if my art would follow me into that new phase of my life, and Grace showed me that it did. So it's pretty much how that film came to be. Was we needed to create a new film to produce to reflect who I was now, and that's where Grace came in. So
Fair enough.
yeah.
So in a sense, the film means a lot more to you than it does to anyone else. You have a personal,
Yes. Yeah, I would totally agree. There's definitely a deeper. I have a deeper love for it because of that.
Okay.
But once again, it's not a horror film, so the sleepiness of its release, normally that would have bothered me, but now it doesn't, because I just realized that a lot of the things that we make and create, sometimes they take a little longer to find an audience.
Oh yeah, and it's always going to take a time, especially
Mm-hmm.
when you're an artist first, So,
Exactly.
but in any case, did you use any newer actresses that you had not used previously?
Yes. So the only two actresses that I used in Failing Grace that I had directed before were Stacy Frieders and Brittany Blanton. Everyone else was new. I hadn't directed any of these people before.
Okay.
So it was the first time that I had directed Mary Lee Osborne and Josh Miller. And then we had and Adam Atherton, and then we had new people like who had not really. Well, Austin Tarantino was in the film, and he was simultaneously working on my film and filming Scream for Summer, which Concept Media recently acquired. And then the two main girls, Sarah Curtis and Caroline Vineyard, they play Maggie and Grace. They'd never acted before at all.
So as you guys are making these films, you guys are acquiring filmmakers along the way
Mm-hmm.
as a distribution company.
Correct.
So
Yes.
okay, so that makes you guys a little bit different than some other uh, production companies where some just make their own productions. You're sponsoring other filmmakers as well as you guys are going along.
Yeah, we are. Recently, we've decided to open our doors, and it's more about helping other filmmakers who have production companies but are just kind of lost on what to do next. So we just help, elevate the awareness of these films. And within the past 3 months, we've acquired Mac Brewer's short film Barracuda. We'll be
Okay,
releasing that. We have already released Tori Jones's first film, Killbillies.
okay.
And then we recently acquired Scream for Summer from Cheyenne Gordon. And there's still plenty more to talk about and to come in 2019. It's going to be a very exciting year for not just Sean and myself as filmmakers, but for a lot of people.
Awesome. And Failing Grace right now is out for pre-order at this point in time, correct?
Yes, yes. We are doing a very limited run of Grace right now. I believe she'll be pulled from the store after Christmas.
Okay.
So she won't be available, come New Year. I think the only place that it would be available after that is within the Concept Media Blu-ray collection.
Okay.
But again, I don't know how much longer that'll be for sale. So if you want to get a copy of these films, head over to our store today.
Most definitely. And now I figured I'd ask you about your newer project dealing with Gary White. So this is your first time actually doing a fan film of sorts, correct?
Incorrect. Incorrect.
Not first time.
About 6 years ago. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Mr. Justin Beam. He was one of the actors in Betsy, but Justin, it is he's like the grand poobah of the fan community for Halloween.
Okay.
And 6 years ago, when he was still with Trancas International, he had wanted to do a fan film contest. So I had written this fan film. It was called Halloween, The Mask of Michael Myers. It was going to continue the story of whatever happened to, baby Steven for
Okay.
Halloween 6. And we just realized, if we can't do this well and we can't do this right, we're not doing it.
Okay.
And so we just kind of put the fan film thing to bed. But then earlier this year is how I would say She Burns in Hell is definitely our first completed fan film.
Okay. So, and it turns out you're also the screenwriter behind The Sleeping Soul, correct?
I did help with that script. I did. It's been a while since I've seen it, David, so I couldn't tell you how much of the material I contributed to the script made it to screen. But I did help Sean a lot with that story.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, ultimately, where can we find your work? Work. This is where I figured I'd let you uh, uh, let the public know where you can find your films, where you can find them.
Well, they are available for purchase through Concept Media's website at our store. So a quick link to that would be conceptmediallc.com/store. If you would like to view She Burns in Hell, it is available for 100% free entertainment and viewing on YouTube. All you have to do is search She Burns in Hell, or the full title, She Burns in Hell, Accounts from Chamberlain, Maine. And that's pretty much it. Like all of our films you can find on our website, save for that one because we're not allowed to sell it.
All righty. And once again, I appreciate you being able to come on and talk about your films, and appreciate your time and your candor. Is there anything else that you want to tell the audience before we get off the air here?
Oh gosh. Just continue to follow us. We are very active on social media, and so we love being able to interact with our fans and discuss our films with you. So please continue to follow Concept Media on Facebook. Sean Burkett and myself have pages there. You can find us on Instagram. My official Instagram is Real Ryan S. We can interact on Twitter. I mean, we're all over the place. So please hunt us down on all these platforms. Continue to talk and share with us. We love being able to firsthand talk with everyone, but also at the same time provide you with firsthand knowledge straight from us of what we're up to next, because in the next few months we do have some really, really big things coming everyone's way.
Very cool. There it is, everyone. This has been Ryan, Stacy, and I appreciate you being able to come on, since I am a fan, first of all. And
well, thank you.
Hopefully you'll be able to think about coming on again, maybe sometime in the future.
Sure.
I mean, if you're ever doing like a feature or an anthology, I'd love to be able to help and help support you guys and your endeavor. I just love helping the independent film community. So,
well, thank you so much, David, and I really appreciate you inviting me on and taking time today to discuss the films with me. I really do appreciate it. I love doing interviews. I really do. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to do another one.
Definitely. Thank you. And go ahead and check some of his films out, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are listening, and definitely check out some of my other reviews that I'll be having out. This week we have the film that's being discussed with the Inside Movies Galore crew, Thanksgiving for Thanksgiving. So definitely check out that discussion Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. So in any case, like, share, and subscribe, and thank you so much, people, for listening. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. Let's say goodnight, Ryan.
Good night, Ryan.